Hello and welcome to the Stronghold Digital Mining Daily Update. Today's Monday, October 23rd, 2023. My name's Steven Zeiner, and I am looking at our homemade Zeiner.com Stronghold Digital Mining shareholder dashboard, and I do see the price of Bitcoin is trading, at least at the moment this snapshot was taken, above $31,000 a coin. That's a really big deal. So as you may recall from some of our previous conversations, our previous broadcasts, right, I've mentioned how for there to be a real meaningful sentiment shift in the market, right, as it relates to publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies, we'd really want to see the price of Bitcoin itself start to move up in a meaningful manner. As I've said before, hey, first we got to get to 30,000. Hey, who knows, pretty soon thereafter, maybe we get to 35,000. 40,000, maybe we hit 60,000 again, so on and so forth, right? You start building momentum. So at the time I started saying that, I think we were trading around 27,000 a coin, and this was prior to the most recent litigation event, so to speak, right, between the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission and the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, which has resulted in, as we've talked about previously, the SEC deciding not to appeal the adverse ruling that it received from the Court of Appeals, thereby really kind of setting the stage at this point for there to be a US-based spot Bitcoin ETF. We started to see the price of Bitcoin slowly but surely start to kind of come awake as a result of that, which is definitely good. I do notice that Bitcoin, generally speaking, seems to be trading a bit more in tandem with oil and gold, which I think is also very useful because ultimately if Bitcoin is to live up to its full potential as a store of value, right, as being something of a digital gold, then I think all of us could probably have as a basic expectation that Bitcoin perform in a manner somewhat similar to gold, albeit a very high beta version of gold. And what I mean by that is, hey, as you know, right, the price of Bitcoin can really whiplash around, quite severely, quite extremely. So, and that's both a blessing, right, to the upside, and it can also be quite painful to the downside, as I'm sure, right, some of us have experienced. But that being said, that sentiment shift, right, which I believe can only truly start to take place once we start to see meaningful, sustained momentum in the price of Bitcoin, right? Once that really starts to happen and we start to maybe get those inflows of capital, hey, people start looking at Bitcoin again, right? Because it's been a while now since Bitcoin has really sort of been in the news as being something that's on the move. I mean, it's been on the move, albeit to the downside, right? Over the past year or so, we've been arguably in something of a crypto winter. As to whether or not we are now finally starting to emerge from that crypto winter is, I think, yet to be seen. I personally would like to see Bitcoin get to 35,000 a coin and move beyond that to really start to feel as if, hey, you know what? It looks like we're starting to build that momentum. And by the way, this has nothing to do with hash prices. I'm not even addressing the topic of hash price at the moment. The market, generally speaking, outside of, right, those of us who really follow publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies, the market's not really focused on hash price, right? In terms of what's making the headline on, say, TV or some of these news sites, it's not generally the hash price. It's generally, right, the price itself of Bitcoin. So I think if we start to see this positive price movement continue, understandable that we might see a couple, hey, you go up a couple of days, you take a breather for several days. But if we start to see this momentum building, arguably on the heels of the SEC versus, right, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust situation, right? That's kind of what gave rise to, I think, the beginnings of this movement that we're seeing. If we get a situation here in the United States, and again, I'm not rooting for this, I'm not hoping for this, but to the extent that there is to be a more rapidly devolving financial situation where we really do start to see something of a financial crisis really start to manifest itself, that's going to be the moment, right? Where I think we're going to want to see Bitcoin really start to accelerate and to truly become that store of value that so many in the Bitcoin community have professed it to be. I say professed it to be, going back a number of years, I kind of always liked thinking of Bitcoin as peer-to-peer electronic cash. Hey, I respect that, through the consensus rules, so to speak, right? Hey, the decision was made to move more in the direction of like a store of value, and that's fine. And I'm rooting for that. I want that to come true. I just hope it does, right? Because at this juncture, we're at a point where if Bitcoin cannot live up to its full potential as a financial crisis unfolds, then one is left to wonder, okay, well then what exactly is Bitcoin? And I'm not saying that to be negative on Bitcoin. I'm not hating on Bitcoin, far from it. I just would like to see it really start living into its full potential and be perhaps viewed less as this wild, like speculative, casino-like instrument, right? Which is nothing but pure speculation, zero, other value, right? Beyond just being this thing that we can gamble on. I would love to see it kind of mature into what, is spoken of as a store of value. Okay. And I'm sure you would as well, because at the end of the day, for those of us, right, who own shares of Stronghold Digital Mining, perhaps amongst a portfolio of other Bitcoin mining companies or other stocks entirely, my focus is really on Stronghold Digital Mining because, again, this is in my backyard. I live here. I live in Pennsylvania. I breathe the air. I drink the water. I really care a lot about the mission and purpose of this business. And, people sometimes kind of come to this conclusion that Stronghold Digital Mining is just a bunch of greedy people. All we want to do, right, as a company is, hey, let's exploit Mother Earth simply to mine Bitcoin and to hold this Bitcoin as, you imagine like a sci-fi story, right? Like these, trolls of some kind, or I don't know what to describe it, like, right? These people just want to like hold on to this Bitcoin as, something that is to be obtained at the expense of everybody else, at the expense of the environment. And that's just not true. It's absolutely not true. For this business to stay in business, right, profitable revenue needs to be generated. I've looked at our financial statements, as I'm sure you have as well. I've yet to see evidence of some sort of, financial bonanza, right? Where it's like, wow, we're just, cash is spewing everywhere. We're making so many profits. I mean, the reality is, I sometimes joke to a buddy of mine, we call these things earnings calls. Hey, we're going to have an earnings presentation. I tend to prefer calling it an investor presentation because lately, hey, when we have these get-togethers, we're not talking about earnings. We're talking about like losses, based on GAAP accounting, losses as far as the eye can see. Now, hey, the good news is, right, we finished 2022 cash flow positive. Guess how? From my perspective, it's because of Winter Storm Elliott. At the time, terrible storm hit this portion of the country. Stronghold Digital Mining powered down its Bitcoin mining data centers. It didn't make any sense. Why would you want to mine Bitcoin when the grid needs your help, right? Hey, look, the lights stayed on where I live. I'm in the PJM, PP&L portion of the grid. I didn't lose any electricity. And in part, that's thanks to Panther Creek, the waste coal reclamation facility owned by Stronghold Digital Mining that's situated here in the PJM, PP&L portion of the grid. And that facility was generating electricity during that storm in late December 2022. What were they doing with that electricity? They were not mining Bitcoin. I mean, how could this be so difficult for certain media outlets and even some proponents, who are perhaps against certain environmental issues, right? In terms of, tire-derived fuels, like how could you get this wrong? I mean, you can't have an honest debate if the allegation is, hey, this company does nothing but use the electricity that it generates to mine Bitcoin. To hell with the community, to hell with everybody else. They're just these greedy people who want to make money at the expense of everybody else. Well, I've yet to see evidence of that. Yeah, there are going to be times where it makes sense, right, economically to mine Bitcoin, but the alternative would be what? Shut down the plant? I mean, you've got quite a number of jobs at Panther Creek, for example. The same is true for Scrubgrass. It's not, these are members of our community. I'm fighting in some ways to really preserve jobs as well. At the end of the day, like, look at what Panther Creek is doing. It's just factually a net benefit to the environment. Hey, is it perfect? No. Have I said that it's perfect? No. Do I claim that this is the one and only solution to cleaning up Pennsylvania's toxic waste, toxic gob or calm wastelands. No, I've never said that. But it's a darn good solution that we've got right now. Hey, it could be a competition. If there are those who say, hey, you know what, there's another piece of technology that can be used to do this. By the way, I haven't really heard of it, really, at least not at scale. But hey, if that exists out there, great. Raise capital and then go after the piles. Work with the Department of Environmental Protection right here in the state of Pennsylvania. Say, hey, give us some piles to work with. We're gonna devour these piles. We've got a system, a method for doing something with them that's gonna rid the land of it. We're gonna liberate Pennsylvania of this toxic waste, and we've got a plan to do it. Start doing it. I mean, right? This is like a free market. I mean, to the best of my knowledge, it's not like Stronghold Digital Mining has cornered the market on cleaning up toxic gob piles or toxic calm piles, right? So, so it's easy to complain. It's easy to nitpick and to say, hey, well, that doesn't look right, or that's not quite perfect, or, I would do things differently. Well, then great, go do it. I mean, look, at the end of the day, we got to try to work together. We're all members of this community. I'm speaking directly to those of you in a couple different environmental groups who, like me, care passionately about the environment. All right, but it's like, hey, let's try to work towards some constructive solutions. Hey, is there something else that could be done to help mitigate some of the pollution? Hey, let me know what it is. I'll research it. I'll propose it to the company. But I mean, what we don't want to see is a situation where members of our own community get laid off, a plant that's doing good work gets shut down. Again, educate yourselves as to what's in these public filings that the company's making with this, United States Securities and Exchange Commission. Look at those financial results or lack thereof. I mean, look, we're struggling. We've been doing a lot of stuff, right, to try to keep these purpose-built facilities alive and doing well. And I think we've done a damn good job of doing that. But, the economic driver that's helping us do that is Bitcoin. It's certainly not grid prices, which aren't really arguably sustainable half the year, in terms of keeping the lights on, so to speak, at these purpose-built facilities. So, I mean, we have to find common ground. We really do. Because, it's not as simple as saying, well, the solution isn't perfect, therefore let's do nothing until the perfect solution arises. To the best of my knowledge, there is no perfect solution, right? So I've never said that this is the perfect solution. I've never said this is the only solution. I've never said that nobody else can ever come into this market, right, with other ideas or approaches to dealing with a problem. But let's see some action. Okay, instead of coming after Stronghold Digital Mining, raise some capital and have at it. Let's cooperatively compete to get rid of these toxic, coal refuse piles, and let's work collaboratively towards getting the job done, instead of us trying to focus on getting the job done and everybody's kind of coming after us, like complaining about this, complaining about that. It sucks because, as I've said time and time again, you and I are ideologically almost indistinguishable, really. How the heck, maybe we just got off on the wrong foot. How have we ended up so far apart regarding a topic that really shouldn't be controversial? Cleaning up toxic waste piles here in our home state should not be controversial. It really shouldn't be. So anyway, hey, price of Bitcoin's going up. That's good for Stronghold Digital Mining. It's good for the entire publicly traded Bitcoin mining ecosystem. I'm hopeful, cautiously optimistic. We're going to start to build some additional momentum. And, the stock price, hey, let's get above $5 a share. Look, we could get to $10, in my opinion, relatively easily. That's not some, a breathtaking feat. We've been there before. It's just a matter, I believe, of market sentiment slowly but surely starting to change. And of course, as I've also said before, Stronghold Digital Mining, from an operational perspective, continuing to post, sustainable, productive, useful results. Okay, right now, results have not been spectacular. I'm incredibly proud of the fact that we deleveraged the business as much as we have, right? That we've taken the steps necessary to survive crypto winter. Okay, I mean, a lot of people wrote us off last year even. So that's not to diminish any of that, right? But to keep it real, right? For right, you say, hey, look, the stock price, it's kind of like in the doldrums. Yeah, I agree. All right, so we got to just keep doing what we're doing. Keep the operations going, keep operations working in a productive, healthy, positive way, and eventually operations will definitely take care of us. I think a shift in market sentiment will be really good for SDIG, right? Shares of SDIG, which is the ticker symbol, of course, of Stronghold Digital Mining. And yeah, you know, I love what this company's doing. I really believe in the mission and purpose of this company. The fact that it has a connection with Bitcoin, you know, it seems like, again, there are these voices out there that hold that against us as if, oh, hey, Bitcoin, it's like a bad word or something, you know? Look at Bitcoin is something that exists. It's useful for the purpose of finding something to do with the electricity that's being generated by these two facilities, Scrubgrass and Panther Creek, when grid prices are just not sustainable, right? For these plants to otherwise be operational. Okay? I mean, it's really as simple as that. Bitcoin is a means to an end. And what's the end? The end is cleaning Pennsylvania's environment. And to me, that's a really, really big deal. Okay, let's stay positive, let's be great, and we'll see each other again tomorrow.